Welcome to the podcast. I'm Rosa Coelho, your host, lifestyle entrepreneur, health coach, and speaker. I've gone from being in complete overwhelm, burning the candle at both ends, and watching my health, relationships, and business suffer, to creating a life with more joy, ease, and abundance. If you're ready to let go of the overwhelm, reclaim your health, and push past your comfort zone so that you can unleash your next level of success to create a greater impact, then sit back as we delve into conversations, as well as bring on guests to share with you tools, knowledge, and real action steps to get you there. Listen in, because you never know when you may hear something that changes everything. Hello, beautiful friend, and welcome to another episode. Oh, today I have such a fun interview for you. This one is shocking. I am interviewing my friend Monique Guffens, who is vegan. And you all know I am definitely not vegan. But guess what? We're great friends and we get along. We actually get along really great. And this episode really, what the main focus is to really talk about how to take, our shorter term weight loss goals and turn them into a lifestyle. Like, how do you actually do that? But also within there, we chat about this whole idea of, just because you're pro something doesn't mean that you need to hate something else. We just living in a time where that just seems to be the message, that you have to be polarizing, and you definitely don't. Both of us have very common goals, which is helping our clients to be as healthy and fit and as strong as possible. And we recommend what is best for the person in front of us. And Monique will even tell you that she even recommends non-vegan things to her clients. She doesn't just train vegans. She trains people that eat in various different ways. And so Monique is a nutritionist. She is a personal trainer. She's a health coach. She's incredibly knowledgeable. And it was my absolute pleasure, and it was so much fun to interview. So sit back and really enjoy this episode. I hope that you really get something out of it, even if it's just one thing for you or one thing to share with a friend. And if you get a moment, please share this out on Instagram or leave us a little review on iTunes. Hi, Monique. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks, Rosa, for having me today.
Oh my gosh, I think we've been talking about this for a while. So this was meant to happen. We're like, okay, let's go. We always have so many things that we talk about. And so thinking of what are we going to put out there today was hard, because we talk a lot. We talk a lot, as a fellow trainer, nutritionist. So for those listening, Monique is a nutritionist. She's a plant-based coach, and she's a personal trainer. She's vegan, she eats vegan, and you all know how obsessed I am, and hashtag meat heals all the time. So it's I wanted to break the mold to show that people who are coaches who are vegan and coaches that also eat meat don't always hate each other. And actually, probably the majority do not. I think it's just a lot of that social media. How can we get people to listen to our stuff, right? You can be pro something without being anti something else.
I love how you say that. You're so right. We're not against red meat. We're not against chicken. It's good for you. And for everyone, it's different. So I'm glad you point that out. And, we all have our expertise or our niche, but it doesn't mean there is a one size fits all.
That's right. And that's for me, I'm not going, oh, she's so unhealthy because she never touches meat. You're super intelligent and you know exactly what you're doing with your, I've got to plug in my laptop. You know exactly what you're doing with we're going to get into it with your macronutrients, and you're making sure that you're getting all the good nutrition that you need to get in. And yes, people can be healthy in a variety of ways that they choose to eat, and that they choose for their own, whether it's their own belief system, whether it's for their health, what they're going through, whether they're experimenting, it is possible. So yes,
absolutely.
We're breaking the mold that we are friends. And you don't get offended when I post, and I don't get offended when you post.
No, and we're both able to like each other's post or comment on it positively as well.
I want to clap it out, because it's just such a thing right now. So Monique, tell me, let's talk about your journey and adapting like being vegan and eating the vegan, like vegan foods. Tell us a little bit about when that started for you.
Right. So for me, it started well before my fitness journey. I was young and my favorite food was French fries. And I was just, now I think back of it, never a fan of meat. Like I couldn't chew it. I don't know. There was something against it. And we would go out for dinner and we had the kids meal. And if you didn't pick up my accent, I'm from the Netherlands. So we do fries and schnitzel. It's a thing. It's a flat piece of veal breaded and it's very kids friendly. But every time you order it, the schnitzel, the meat part was getting bigger and the French fries were getting smaller. So at some point I decided that if I would be a vegetarian, and I must have heard it on TV somewhere, that if I would become a vegetarian, I could just only have the French fries and no one would argue. So this is where it started at age 11. I told my mom in a restaurant that I was never going to eat meat again.
Wow. I love that. That's so interesting. Because you've kept that up all these years. And you're right. Like some people just don't like the taste. Like it's just not the taste, the texture, whatever it is. It's just not for them. And, for our listeners, like really the purpose of today's podcast is we're going to be talking about weight loss goals and how to turn it into like a short-term goal into a long-term lifestyle. But I really like talking about our backgrounds in this, because I think it has so much to do with why sometimes people can't get past like that short-term thinking. Like, how do you turn it into long-term? Let's talk a little bit about, because I know I went through this and you've talked about like, this is just the way I eat and it's not my identity. And I have spoken a lot about that because for a long time I was like the paleo primal coach until one day I decided I really liked hummus. And not only that, like there was just changes in my hormones being in my 40s where it was actually beneficial to add some like a little bit more carbohydrate at certain times into my meals. And I was like, okay. And also like just gut health, all sorts of reasons why I started to add some different non-paleo foods. And you know what? It was hard for me because that was my identity. And then I'll never forget, I don't know if you know, her name's Julie. Can't think of her last name right now, but she does paleo OMG. She's got a website. She's very well known in the paleo community and she's an amazing cook. Like she's got phenomenal recipes on her website. And I actually just put it in the show notes because it's so useful, but she started adding beans to her meals because she learned about all the great things in fiber in meals for your microbiome. And actually she healed her acne doing it. So it was just like phenomenal. She actually worked with a coach that guided her through that process. But I thought, well, if she has a whole website and she's marketed herself as paleo and she gets asked all the time why she doesn't change the name, and she has just great answers. And it's very similar to what we're talking about. It's like, we've got to have a little bit room for flexibility. And then because we don't know where life takes us in 5 years, 10 years time. And when we start to really make something the way we eat our identity, it makes coming out of those boxes really difficult. Now, very different to someone who's doing it for religious reasons or, there's various reasons, of course, but we're talking about strictly from the nutritional point of view. So I don't know. How do you feel about that, about making it like your identity or not making it your identity?
That's good you bring that up because I was in a way kind of scared of that because as I said before, the vegan community can be very judgmental and be very particular. If you do anything, you might, have a pet, then you're not vegan enough. And I was like, I don't want to do that because I want people to be happy and healthy. So if they eat red meat, that's okay. I cook red meat. I buy it. I just don't want to eat it. So I like the term that at one point came out plant-based. Mm-hmm. It just gives you a little bit more leeway on like, you could be plant-based most of the time and still, have fish and chicken sometimes or have eggs in it. It just gives a little bit more leeway because we're so much more than just a label. Like we're not a nutrition label, we're a person.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And even as women, like even with our cycle, our needs change. So maybe someone for like 3 weeks of the month feels really good being plant-based only. And all of a sudden they feel like they need a few eggs or like a piece of fish or whatever it is. It doesn't mean that they're no longer plant-based. And I like that. I love, and I hope that we're starting as a like in this health space, just allowing a little bit more flexibility. And sometimes, we do need to be really, really strict on something, which I think we're going to talk about that before we're able to then become flexible. But you just want to make sure that that there will be like an endpoint to that so that you can then have that flexibility. So let's talk about like, what are the main goals? So you're a one-to-one trainer in person. You're in Mississauga. I can say it. I don't know that I'll be able to spell it. I'll look it up. But you work with women in person, but you also work with a lot of women online, which is how we met. We met through a kettlebell community online because we're across the country from each other. And we just hit it off because I think we have a lot of the same philosophies when it comes to health and our passion for helping women in particular. What would you say are the main goals of the women that come to you? Like, what are they looking for when they're hiring you?
That's a great question. So the girls, I'd say, that I train online, this wasn't really how it was, planned to be, but it turned out to be. A lot of them are like in their early 20s, which is super amazing. They're just kind of opening up to the idea of weight loss. As we said before, they reach out for weight loss, but then they leave or they stay because they really enjoy the strength training and the kettlebell training and the moving heavy stuff around rather than doing jumping jacks and a lot of cardio.
Amazing. So that's your online or your in-person clients?
That's in person. Online, I think it's in a little bit of a different demographic. They're a little bit older and it's mostly weight loss and a lot of menopause, so a little bit older, and hormones, as we talked about before. Right. So again, it's a very balance of getting enough fiber and enough protein in. Yeah,
you're working with like quite a wide range of women. That's so cool. Because I'm sure the needs are very different from like your 20-year-olds to your menopausal women.
Yeah, it's partly because the people that might recognize me from somewhere, but like my own thing is online in person, that younger, but I also work for a different online company. So that's where the different demographic came from. And it's super excited to be able to work with so many different women.
Right. Let's talk about the weight loss goals of your online clients. Cause I think that's such a fascinating space. Cause I know you, like me, we don't really love weight loss. Like it's not our goal for people, yet we do recognize that that's what people desire. And also it's a fair goal in a sense that if you're feeling like that's really holding you back, like why hold that against someone? Like you can achieve those weight loss goals. We can help you with those as well as change them and transition from just the weight loss into an actual long-term lifestyle goal. And so it's not, you will achieve your goal, but the point is you're going to achieve your goal and so much more. And often I believe that when women come to us, they sometimes just don't know what's out there. I've just thought of this. I remember going to university because I was going to be a school teacher, and I got to university and I was blown away at how many different careers you could do. Like I met these people all doing different jobs. And I was like, I didn't know that there was all these options out there in the world. Like I came from a family of teachers, so that's what I was going to be. I never even considered. So I think also a lot of times when women come to us, they think that they want weight loss, but they also don't know what's optional for them. Like that, yes, you can also build strength. You can also heal your gut health so that you're not bloated anymore, so that your brain becomes healthier. You think better, like that whole, you balance your hormones. Like there's so much more to it. And so, to be fair, like I said, a lot of times people think that that's all that's really out there. So it's through podcasts like this that we kind of get the word out. There's so much more.
Exactly. And I also feel like, as you bring up before, but it's so empowering if you actually have the option, to lift weights, to choose the food that works for you, with your goals, and you can change that around. And just, we want them to learn as well how to do this on their own. And we talked about before, we're not pro cookie cutter plans, like this is your workout and this is your food. And that's it, because we really want to teach them a lifestyle.
Yeah. Amazing. Let's focus a little bit on the food side of it. What tool or what strategy do you feel works the best for women for you? Like that really gets them those goals that they're after?
Especially in the beginning, like being from macros is my way of doing it. So the 3 macronutrients, protein, carbs, fiber, and fats, making sure that those are balanced in whatever your goal is and your age is, and or any imbalances in your body, like hormones you might have. But that are the tools you have. You don't have to restrict. You don't have to call food good or bad or clean or not. Within macros, you can have a very good variety of foods and a good lifestyle while you reaching those goals that might possibly be weight loss in the beginning.
Amazing. Let's talk about that, because this macro talk, like people hear like count your macros. And I guess like we know what they are in the sense of carbohydrate, proteins and fats, but what's like one of the first things that you'll coach women on when it comes to their macros, if this is something that's like totally foreign to them?
In the beginning, like just tracking your food, and there's plenty of apps out there. You don't have to do it on an Excel sheet anymore, just to kind of see where your natural balance is. Like for me personally, when I first started to do macros, I came across that I just wasn't eating any protein. And I wasn't eating enough healthy fats, and I was living on carbohydrates.
Right. So yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting that you say that. It can be a pain to count at first, I think, but you get quicker at it. And it is a powerful tool. Like I love calling it a tool because that's what it is. I don't want anyone tracking for their life, but you also become very savvy at understanding. I always think of it, it's kind of an education of understanding and learning about your food rather than trying to make yourself feel bad or stick within like this rigid box for the rest of your life. I think it's a really interesting education that you get from tracking. But like you, that is the number one thing that I see with women is not enough protein. They could be eating like what they see as healthy foods. And a lot of times they are healthy foods, but there's no protein. Like I can't count how many times like in the past where I'd been sitting in a staff room and like, people will have like all these salads and they look so healthy. And you're like, no protein in there, like no protein.
Yeah. And also we don't realize sometimes, we think lentils and nuts are protein, but they're actually carbs or fats with protein in it. So I think a lot of times we think we're doing the right thing until you actually track and really dissect the food you ate. You're like, oh, oops. Yeah. Or in the plant-based community, you might eat a veggie burger, and because a burger is protein, but it doesn't have to be. There's plenty of veggie burgers out there with 0 protein in there.
Right, right. Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. When I first started tracking, I'm trying to think of what really shocked me actually is the good side of things too. How once you get the hang of it, how much food you actually can eat, feel satisfied, feel full, because that's the point. And it still be relatively low carb or keep you within your macros that you need to for whatever your goals are. But that, I think that that's like a really positive thing that comes out of it. You're like, whoa, I can eat all of that. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of women just in general, as we know as well, don't eat enough. Maybe have certain days or nights when there might be, some festivity going on. There's a ton of food, but then the rest of the time we restrict ourselves so much and we don't eat enough and we don't get enough of anything. And then we don't feel good.
That's a huge point. Yeah. You end up on that roller coaster, that like sugar crashing, like up, down from being all over the place for sure. What is your recommendation? Like, obviously, for our listeners, be kind of very general. I know that they're obviously, when you're working with someone, it's very specific to their goals in the sense that, it depends how much they're training. It depends what kind of stress they're under. There's like a lot of factors that will individualize it for you. But just for someone that's listening, where's a good place to start in terms of their macros? Like, how much protein do you recommend they get, and carbohydrates, like that kind of thing?
Well, if you're doing it by percentage and your caloric intake for whatever reason, you might have found it out from a doctor or a dietitian, 30% protein, 30% fat, and 40% carbs for the average. But if you're a little bit older and in menopause, we recommend like more fats in percentage to carbs, just because your body does break down a little different. Not saying no carbs.
That's right.
But if you're doing it per grams and you're just focusing on protein, but most likely I like to use is like 1 gram of your desired body weight, but you'll have to do that realistic, not saying I want to be 90 pounds because
right.
So you need to know what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. I always like, generally most people are going to be at least at 100 grams of protein, right? But most don't get to like most people are nowhere near 100 grams of protein, most women. And so I always, for me personally, I always start with, okay, let's get you to 100 grams of protein because that can feel like a jump to people. It's not a huge jump though. It's actually pretty surprising. Like, for example, if you are eating meat, because that's what I know best, like one small palm like of chicken can be like 25 grams. Like it doesn't take you a lot to get to 100, and people are always kind of surprised by that. It's again, it comes from knowing your food and what you're eating. And then from that, I agree. That's what I do too, is 1 gram per desired body weight that you'd like to get to. But yeah, so I go baseline first and then we move it up. And something interesting that I learned was that, you know, as you do get older and go into menopause and stuff, your body doesn't synthesize the protein as well. So you do need to be having a little bit more than when you're younger.
When I started on macros, I had a good day, it would be 20 grams of protein. So you were right. In the beginning, my goal was 50 grams. I had to take baby steps.
Yeah. It's not so important. It's like, we just want to go from 0 to hero, but that's not what's going to help us.
No.
Yeah. How long do you get people to track their macros for? Like, what's a good amount of time on average that you've seen with the people that you've worked with, a good amount of time to be doing it? Because they don't want to be doing it for the rest of their lives. But I know I do it off and on throughout the year. Like I'll be like, oh, I can feel like some slippage, or I'm not quite feeling so great. So I know it's time to kind of rein it in again.
Totally good point. If you're at that goal, you're like, oh, I need to, you know, dial in my nutrition or my workout plan. I go back more specific. I eat very much the same things. So often you don't actually have to track as much anymore.
Yeah.
Because you know, like
right.
how, you know, I eat the same types of proteins. So I know how to get to my desired gram. But I think most need at least 6 months to a year to track, because consistency, often when you start tracking, you might fall off and you don't track for a little while. Like if someone starts today and is doing it consistent, 3 months might be really good. But for a lot of us, there's a lot of trial and error. So on and off, it might be a year before you actually know what you're eating. And it also depends how many different variety of things you eat. Like some of us are very regimented and very organized. So you can do this so much quicker than just kind of eat what you feel like all the time.
Yeah. I like that, because that also accounts for, it tells us a lot about ourselves if we can track for like 3 to 6 months at least, or like you said, if someone can really do it for even longer, it allows us to kind of see also what we're like in different seasons, and also during different, like, life is seasons in itself, and that we have stressful times and we have fun times, and seeing like, what do we do? How do we respond in those times? Like, are we an emotional eater and we didn't think we were, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute. Like, I think it's a good tool. I just don't like people to, you know, the tool isn't to make you feel guilty. The tool is to give you a way of understanding yourself better.
And even if you track on like the day that was exactly as planned, sometimes it's really good to know that in your mind, a really good day or a really bad day, how that actually looks on paper or on your app. And as you say, like, you don't have to track, even if you track for a year, it doesn't maybe 365 days. There is a holiday or there's a vacation, that you just make that choice to not be in your phone and in the app, but be present in the moment.
Love that.
And see how that feels. And how do you come back from that?
Exactly. Trust yourself too. Right. And also I'd say just like we, you don't get healthy in one day. You also don't become unhealthy in one day. So give yourself a little break. If you're going on a weekend vacation, as long as it's not every weekend, you're going to be okay. It's but you're right.
Exactly.
And also I believe that what we forget is that, as you start tracking and as you start feeling better and feeling more energy, you're literally a different person. So how you think, how it feels really hard at the beginning to be tracking into doing this, you don't feel that 2 and 3 months down the road. It gets quick. You get faster at it. You feel good. The energy's great. You see the purpose in it. All of those things start to really shift.
Yeah, I think it's similar with working out. When you first start working out, it can be very intimidating and everything takes forever because you don't know how to set up the machines. And then now you just, you do your workout and that's it. You don't even think about it.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into my next questioning, because I want to talk about strength training. And because I'm a huge women and strength training is just so many beautiful things that come out of that. When did you become were you always interested in strength training? When did you become interested in it?
I was very young, interested in exercises, but I was really into the group fitness classes and the running, like yourself, we did some running. But then I saw when you grow up, you see other people in the gym and those women looked their arms were so toned. And that's what I wanted. Was never I never looked at anyone's legs, but I wanted arms like that. I wanted biceps.
That is so funny. I don't think we've ever talked about that. It's so funny. I always say to my clients, arms are the new boobs, man.
Exactly. I don't have those, so I had to come up with something else.
I don't have them either. That's why I started saying that. But now it's been this big thing where people are getting explants because it's just so bad. People are really suffering with their health. That's not a laughing matter. But I'm don't worry, man, just work on your arms. Arms are sexy, man. That's where you want to be. Yep. That's awesome. And so where did you, how did you start to learn? Because I think strength training is very intimidating for women. I know it was really intimidating for me. It was just, I remember just being nervous going into a gym, into the weight area where usually it's a lot of guys and that kind of thing. So a lot of women just avoid it. And it's just easy to go on the treadmill. It's not that they don't necessarily want to, but they don't know where to start. How did you feel when you first were okay, I want to do that? What were you just brave and did it? Or did you what did you do?
Yeah, well, actually, I got injured and I couldn't do group classes. So I still went into the gym, but I could only work on my upper body. So I just did it. I don't remember anyone anywhere showing me. So I'm sure, definitely for sure, I didn't do the right things. But I just went in and do it. And I looked at the little picture on the machine because this was well before the cell phone came out.
Yeah.
So, and kind of wing it. And in time, I've learned different things. I was dating a personal trainer that helped too at some point.
Oh, that helps a lot.
I did the
lot. Well, it's the people you surround yourself with, right? If you're hanging out with people that are doing that, whatever it is that you desire to do, you're going to do more of it. So that's so cool. And what were some of the changes that really inspired you to keep going and to then start thinking what, this is something that I would love to actually coach other people to do as well?
I think again, because so many years I went to the gym and just played on machines. I didn't know what weight to use. I didn't have an order. I just kind of looked around and did something. I did more cardio than I did weightlifting. And in time, I just thought when I finally figured it out, and that was mostly online, I bought some online cookie cutter type plans, but I got the vision and then I went, I need to learn more. And then I got certified and then I wanted to teach others. I got certified for myself and then I realized, this is so fun. You can teach other people this too.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So you just got certified for you. You weren't even thinking of doing it as a business.
No.
Wow. And
then more and more people come ask you, right? Friends will call you and basically, mostly male friends asked me. And then I was like, well, when I started my business, I wasn't it's different. I feel like there's enough out there. There's so much difference that in the woman's body that we need to think of.
Right. Yeah, I'd agree with that too. When it comes to your clients, What do you think, like, what do they struggle with most when they come to you? Like, as much as we would like everyone to succeed, like there's always like, some people that maybe it's just not their time and it just for whatever reason, but let's focus on like the women that do come like and succeed. What is it that you feel helps them to get there, to get what they were desiring?
I think two things, like consistency is one thing. And the other thing goes in hand with that is like being realistic what your goals can be.
Right.
If you're coming in like, I have 2 weeks and I want to go from A to Z.
Right.
And not succeeding.
And I guess that's the power of having like a coach to really help you through that. Consistency is like, I always say consistency is not sexy. Like people don't like that word. And whether it's in business, whether it's in health, whatever it is, like consistency is the magic. It really is. What habits do you feel they need to be consistent with if they're going to really kind of crack this code?
With their time management in a way of like no excuses, but also making sure you make time for you and your goals and your health. This is when I'm working out and this is when I meal prep. Like sadly, just going to the gym or doing a workout program or a class online or whatever it might be is for most of us just not enough. We need to dial in that nutrition as well.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And so would you say that's the biggest reason why some women that come to you don't succeed? Is just that they just can't grasp that time management? Or do you think there's other blocks there?
There's other blocks there as well. And obviously it can also be like we talked about before, like hormones. But I think mostly is you really have to make that decision that you're going to commit to it for months, not days. Like it's not just a Monday thing. It has to be 7 days a week. You can have fun, as we said before, but if you have fun from Thursday to Sunday every week, you're not going to get the goals you want.
That's right. And you know what? I'm glad that you talked about like hormones can be a block. And you hear a lot of women saying, okay, I can't shift this weight because of my hormones. And there is truth to that. I don't want to not validate that. Like, especially as, someone in my mid 40s, I'm sure I'm about to hit that stage. Like I'm just waiting for it. My mom was quite a bit older, so I'm hoping it's going to like wait a little bit longer for me, but there does come that stage where that happens. And I think that's where the power of desiring for yourself, making time for yourself to be healthy and to focus on strength training and all the other benefits that we talked about, not just weight loss, will keep you in it for the long road, because we don't want to just exercise just so that we keep the weight off. Like there'll be a time that we'll all go through those cycles where it's just not working for the weight loss because of whatever your hormones are trying to balance out or something else. You need to shift something else somewhere, like who knows, but there's so many more benefits, like our posture, our longevity, our energy, our microbiome, like all of it. Like there's so many other benefits.
I think you said it earlier really good as well. Like sometimes it's not your time. If you just don't have time to rest and recover and sleep, or you're so stressed in your daily life, you can absolutely still work on your nutrition and workouts, but you cannot expect your body to make major fat loss changes while it's under this enormous amount of stress or exhaustion.
Yeah, that is such a good point. That's huge for people. And yeah, if you've got a big stress, that has to be, maybe you just you start with smaller habits and you just don't, like you said, you have these realistic goals. So, okay, I'm under a lot of stress. The weight loss isn't going to be a thing, but I still need to make these little lifestyle changes. So I'm going to start with something smaller, like a smaller habit, and stick to that.
And we all know when we build a little bit more muscle turns into little fat burning machines if you do it right. So you might as well start now, because it takes a very, very long time to build muscle. So
yeah, it's so interesting talking about like building muscle. I always think, each decade that we're in, the better we work at training our muscles to build that lean muscle mass, it's just going to help us that much more in the next decade of our life. So like I just think longevity, like I see my own mom at 81, who's super strong, but it's because of how strong she's built her body over the years. Like it just doesn't happen overnight. So think long-term, right? You want to be like a hot 60-year-old, be training in your 40s, right? Like
you're right. Our moms are super, like my mom went to radiation a few years ago, and she made a point, again, she's in the Netherlands, to bike to the hospital for radiation almost every appointment, because it took her like 3 times longer, but she wanted to do this. Because you can't do it in Canada, but you can do it there.
Wow. See, that's incredible. And that's really truly understanding like the power of exercise and health. And she had that strength. And I just think the stronger your body is, the more chance you have to really then deal with, the surprises that life throws at us, right? Like in my mom's case, it was a broken ankle that, she had to deal with. In your mom's case too, like a health concern as well. So yeah, it's like the stronger you are, you're setting yourself up for success. Like it's really, really powerful.
Yeah, your body naturally is going to let go of muscle mass and bone density. And we know that. That's a fact. So why would you not want to try and reverse as much as you can, or slow that process down as much as you can?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So let's talk a little bit about business, because I always like chatting a little bit about business. Like when you said you got certified for yourself, like at what point where did you make this decision to actually start working online or training people in person and actually turning this into a business?
Definitely started in person, just because that was what you did. So in my garage, we slowly turned it into more and more of a gym space, and more every time I got a new client, I got a new piece of equipment, or an extra heavy dumbbell or kettlebell, or like that was my thing. And we have a good section now. Just wanting to help people out. And the online world was kind of foreign to me for that thing, but just people come to you work with them for an hour. And because of my certification, I also wanted to talk about nutrition all the time, and guiding, because in the past when I had my own trainers, no one ever mentioned anything about nutrition. Maybe in passing they mentioned the word macros or protein, but it didn't mean anything to me.
Right. Amazing.
Or not to me specific.
Yeah. So I love that. Like I don't know if you could choose, like which ones do you think is the most important? Nutrition or training?
Nutrition, I think, because that's what you do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And training could be you can have great success with 3-4 hours a week. Right. Which if you only eat well or whatever, 3 to 4 hours a week, it's not enough.
Yeah. I love that. And you can actually put on lean muscle by choosing the proper foods and just living your daily life. Like, I'm not saying you're going to get ripped or anything, but food is super powerful. I love that. The one thing I have to say though, for me, my experience has been that when you're training, your body just naturally wants to eat better. Like it's such a boost. And then you need to eat better to support the training so that you're healing properly. But I think the two together are just like this beautiful, magical pair.
Exactly. I used to have this thing from sugar hangovers because I was eating so much carbs and I love my sweets. And sugar hangovers are worse than real hangovers. They are awful. I started to connect the dots. I was like, I can feel better. That's awesome.
I love that. I love that you have this past of not being like this perfect eater, this perfect, like you're so relatable with your clients. And I think that's what makes you so real to people, is like, what it's like to be on both sides. Like when they're telling you what their experiences are, you really get it, like physically get it. You could remember it.
Yeah. And I was just really lucky because I was always in the hospitality industry. So I was always very active. So I guess if I had a desk job, life would be different maybe right now, but.
Right. So then you started, how did you get into the online training?
The world changed. So online became the thing. And I did a photo shoot and I got a website and I just kind of went for it.
Amazing. Yeah. And same thing. I wasn't doing I've always had an online presence, but I didn't do a lot of coaching online until the last few years. Like you said, the world changed. Everyone had to stay home and yeah. But I think it was an interesting time because I think it also, a lot of new people fell into the space of health. And there's something also for, I think that like, for some women who were maybe nervous about the gym, like this became a real opportunity to explore strength training and doing different coaching at home to build that confidence.
Yeah, I did like workouts in the park with individuals or with groups. And then, people were asking if I would do the classes on Zoom, and like, sure, why not? And
amazing.
The ball started rolling.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. What do you feel is like one mindset or habit that you think makes the biggest impact on your clients? Like one shift that they can have, like that you've seen really, really will help them to get to those goals. Like you can almost see it happening for them.
That it's a lifestyle and not a restriction, that you can do and eat what you want to do. You can do the type of workouts or the type of cardio you enjoy. You can eat the things you want to eat. It's just balancing it all out. It doesn't have to be awful. It's fun. It's great.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. So it's not so much about like eliminating all the things that you love. It's just about implementing things that work and balancing it out. Yeah, beautiful.
If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stick with it. Like you're going to go back to older habits, or you bounce right back. Or you're going to crave something so much, you're going to have way too much of it. So just, balance it all out and figure out how you can do and eat the things you enjoy and still reach your goals.
Love that. Yeah. Let's get rid of this guilt thing, right? Like, oh, that doesn't help anyone.
No, and nobody is perfect. Like it's progression, not perfection, is something I definitely bring up a lot. Beautiful. And I live by that, because not every workout is going to be perfect. Not every night of sleep is going to be perfect. So
yeah. Oh, I love that. Progression, not perfection. That is so good. Very cool. Okay. I've got two last questions. You and I can always talk forever about so many things. We'll do another episode down the road for sure. Let me ask you the last two questions that I always ask everyone. So one is, what is one thing that you read or that you heard that changed everything for you? And usually we have a few of these moments obviously in our life, but what is one you can think of?
I think going back to everything we talked about, but it was macros. When I got my first online program that had mentioned the word macros and learning about what protein was, game changer. Like, wow, no one had told me this before. Is it that simple? Yes, that's simple.
Yeah, I love that. So cool. Okay. And the last question is, what does living life by design mean for you?
Freedom. Outdoors, flexibility. I think doing what you like to do at the moment, being flexible and being able to be outside. That was something that wasn't in my life previously, and now it is. And I think if we're happy, I'm happy, I can make my clients way happier too, because it just, everything goes better, right?
I love that. I can really resonate with that. Did you make a conscious decision to start to do those things more, to bring those things into your life?
Yeah, I think the more I learned and researched and was helping and coaching other people, I was seeing the switches, or you have to live the life you preach too, because you want that. And I just realized you have to put your own needs first, not saying to drop everyone and everything around you, but you have to focus that everything you do has to be because you want to, not because you have to.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a wonderful place to end. We'll just add back in the progression, not perfection. Yeah. Monique, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate you. And I'm so grateful for the value that you've put out there. Where can people find you online? Like, how can they reach out to you? And I'll put it in the show notes too, but just let us know.
Yeah, I'm everywhere under Feeling Fiercely Fabulous.
Feeling Fiercely
Fabulous.
Social
media yeah.
Love that. And just an FYI to our listeners is that you do coach online and you are vegan, but you don't just coach people in like the vegan way of eating. Like you coach vegan, vegetarian, meat eaters, because you're focusing on the macros. So it's not about, you don't have to be vegan in order to reach out to Monique. If you are, great too, because she's a wealth of knowledge. She's a nutritionist, right? So she can do it all, but yeah, I just want to make that clear because I don't want people to limit themselves. If they're really feeling like a connection with you and they're feeling called to reach out to you for some one-to-one training, then that's awesome. And I know like you're really flexible in the sense that, you know, if someone wants to come and learn for, you know, a few sessions, or if they want to be longer term, that you're so great that way. You just like to really help women.
Yeah, we can start anywhere, anytime.
Awesome. Thanks, Monique. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening in today. I know time is precious, and I'm grateful you shared yours with me. It would mean the world to me if you felt an impact, a moment of inspiration, or learned something new, if you would share it with those you care about and leave me a review on iTunes. I'd love to know what spoke to you or what you'd like to hear more of. Your sharing and leaving a review would help so much on this journey to making an impact on as many people as possible. It's worth it. I know from experience, there are moments when something we hear has the possibility of changing everything.